All right, let me cut across to our top story here on India responding to Trump tariffs. India is not buckling. India is quite clear that the country will not buckle under US tariff pressure. In fact, it looks like India is now on the offensive. A Reuters report says that India now plans to ramp up Russian oil imports by 10 to 20% in September this year. That's nearly 300,000 extra barrels a day that we're going to be taking from Russia. Russia now supplies about 40% of India's crude, and exporters are offering fresh discounts of nearly $2 to $3 a barrel. Despite US accusations of profiteering, India calls out Western hypocrisy, reminding the world that America and Europe continue to import Russian goods themselves. Analysts say Russian crude will remain critical to India's energy security. So there you have it. India now on the offensive, not buckling under Trump's threat, but instead stepping up and relying on its neighbors. Russia, all the more, purchasing oil at this point, which India believes will only benefit the country. And now we are looking at a counter push from the citizens of India. On the streets and campuses in India, citizens are now rallying with boycott calls against American brands. The trigger, of course, is the 50% tariff by Trump, a wall that they've created on Indian exports. So you have Lovely Professional University, to start with, has already banned Coca-Cola and other US soft drinks from its campus. Its founder, AAP MP Dr. Ashok Kumar Mittal, says very clearly, we are going to boycott US goods. It's a firm boycott that's in place, at least within their campus. Let's listen in.
ट्रम्प साहब टैरिफ वापस ले नहीं लिया तो जो हमने एलपीयू के स्टूडेंट्स ने, स्टाफ ने, सब ने मिलकर फैसला किया था कि हम 27 अगस्त से अमेरिकन बेवरेजेस प्रोडक्ट्स को, अमेरिकन सॉफ्ट ड्रिंक्स प्रोडक्ट्स को लवली कैंपस से बैन कर देंगे. आज वो हम करने जा रहे हैं.
All right, and then you have Yoga Guru Ramdev, who's gone further, urging Indians to give up Pepsi, Coca-Cola, KFC, McDonald's, and all of the US brands altogether. He calls America's trade tariff on India as nothing but bullying, hooliganism, and dictatorship. And then you have economist and former JNU professor Utsa Patnaik, who compares this to a new economic freedom struggle. Says imports are being thrust on us against our will. Boycotting is really in the interest of our Indian farmers and workers. You also have entrepreneurs in India who are weighing in, taking this opportunity to push for Indians to opt for Indian goods. Manish Chaudhary, co-founder of Wow Skin Clinic, says Indians must support domestic startups, and farmers, instead of in fact lining up products, buying products extensively that belong to countries that are 1,000 miles away, at least give Indian products a chance. The reality, though, of course, is a lot more complex. Let me tell you that India heavily depend, or rather flock to these US giants, US companies like Starbucks. Look at the queue that you see in India. We are their biggest market. As we know, WhatsApp, its largest user base are Indians. Domino's sells the most number of pizzas in India than anywhere else. Starbucks, Apple, Coca-Cola all draw heavy crowds from India. They are minting money from India, but are Indians really ready to disengage? That's the big question. Which is why when comments from President Trump's former trade advisor, Peter Navarro, comes, it really stings. In fact, Navarro says, mocking India, that India is so arrogant. They could have really avoided this tariff, but India is arrogant. They want to fuel Ukraine war. He in fact calls the Ukraine war as Modi's war. But a few others in the United States, like Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, sounds more conciliatory, saying that the relationship is complicated. Modi and Trump are still very good friends, in a way to say that both of them still share good chemistry, not all is bad. So as the US turns up the heat, Indians now rallying behind its government. But will boycott calls or boycotting American products really help counter tariffs' impact on the Indian economy? Let me cut across to our panelists joining us here tonight. Jayant Dasgupta, former ambassador to the WTO. Thanks very much, sir. We also have Dilip Chenoy, former Secretary General, FICCI. We also have Shubhomoy Bhattacharjee, consulting editor, The Business Standard. I really appreciate all of you joining us. Does Swadeshi 2.0 really have the power to shift the balance or sustain the economy? And how soon can that actually kick in, that stability? Make in India, we're already on that track, but we haven't really achieved full potential of Make in India. That might take a little longer, but at a time like this, India will receive that shock. How soon will that effect trickle in? We're not sure. But boycotting US goods, do you think that that's something that India should do, at least as symbolic? Jayant Das Gupta?
Well, it is a matter of, I think, sentiment and the nationalist spirit that if the US is not treating us fairly, it is not abiding by its international legal commitments, then there should be some kind of a pushback, some kind of a retaliation. And this is in the hands of the common man. So that sentiment, can't be brushed aside all that easily. But one thing which needs to be mentioned in this context, in 1977, the government of the day at that time had wanted dilution of the holdings in Coca-Cola, of the foreign holdings. And Coca-Cola in protest had withdrawn, and it entered the market in India only in 1993 after that. Now, things have changed a lot since then. For instance, the software that we are using, Microsoft Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google, these are, and you mentioned quite a few others, these are all pervasive in our day-to-day lives. And we keep using these services and also paying or contributing to their revenues. We also keep buying physical products from the US. So, if the Indian consumer decides that he would not buy an American product, then it could be easier if there is a substitute available in the market at a comparable price, comparable quality, etc.
Yeah.
But if it comes to a service, then I don't think it would be all that easy. And mind you, for each of these services, there is a huge amount of royalty payment which is repatriated to the US.
You know, and Dilip Chinoy, if you can come in on this, products like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, it's not very difficult for India to find alternatives within the country. In fact, there were all types of sodas that we had at one point, and that's phased out because Coca-Cola and Pepsi have this kind of monopoly that they've killed all the small businesses. Could this be the time to revive them? Is it so easy as we think?
Actually, it's very interesting that you asked this question because in 1997, one of the drinks that came out to in lieu of Coke was Campa.
Yes.
And just over the last 2 or 3 years, Campa, the brand has been rejuvenated and reintroduced here by none other than the company than Reliance. So and of course there are the local level. If you go down into tier 2, tier 3 cities, there are still some local drinks which are available. But I think on the broader question that you have put, and Ambassador Jayant Das Gupta has actually addressed some of it. This is something, if you look at the history of, let's say, Prime Minister Modi's Independence Day speeches, he has been actually talking about this in every speech that he has made over the last 10 years. Starting with, looking at encouraging the small industries to find one product that we import, to look at that product, make it equal quality, lower cost in India so we can substitute. Then the second time he talked about, while you do this, also do zero defect and zero effect, how do you impact the climate? Then it was, vocal for local. And you're having a series of things which are there because I think in the overall context of India, the need to reduce our, current account deficit and, do that, whether it's our renewable energy push, whether it is ethanol in petroleum, there's a whole strategy going on. In that context, I think if we look at first, products that are being imported, I think like Ambassador Jayant Das Gupta said, there are some services, there are some other products that are made in India which are giving Indians, employment and jobs. Let's look at things which are importing and consuming, right? which very easy to do, and there are substitutes available in India. And therefore, some of the calls that you featured the startup on your show who talks that give Indian startups a chance here, and that we should do that. Other countries have an ethos. Very few people know that. Let's say a country like Japan has zero duty on Indian textiles, but we can't sell even a shirt there because people don't buy. People buy local,
Yeah.
right? So I think we need to build that spirit of buying local and promoting local industries. But yet, as Ambassador
Also
Dasgupta
comes
said,
I think, with
it's a
quality. It's
different.
not, you can't push patriotism down people's throat when you're giving substandard products. So it I think also
Absolutely.
comes down to quality. Do you think Indian goods can actually live up? I'm not saying, well, to each palate their own. I might like Campa, the other might like Coca-Cola. But yet, say for example, clothing, a lot of the clothing brand that I might get in the United States in terms of fabric, myself, I don't find that comparison. I don't find the equivalent here in India. And I, subconsciously resort to buying it from the US.
Yeah, so that's a point that you make. And there are some, let's say, there's some products which you can make, but you can always substitute it. I mean, if you take American brands that are selling, let's say, even clothes in India
Yeah.
or other products in India, in some of the brands, if you go into a store, you'll see some made in India, some made in Colombia, some made in Bangladesh, some made in Vietnam. So if you consciously choose, let's at least choose the made in India product there. There are different ways of actually doing it. It can't happen overnight. It's a long haul. We have to improve quality of our products. But I think as a nation, if we want to reduce our dependence on imports and then be a big powerful economy, create scale, we've got to buy stuff that is actually made in India, and
So I
actually
think we are
look at it.
shifting at least the sentiment, the attitude, our perception of made in India has changed. And we've come a long way there, for sure. We are resorting to more Indian craft, Indian, Indian fabric also. Like I said, there are some kinds of fabric you might not find here, but Indian woven fabric, authentic to India, we've started celebrating that a lot more than we ever have. So we have come a long way on that note, but to boycott US firms in India, giants like McDonald's, KFC, Apple. We are so obsessed with Apple. It's now become a prestige symbol to own an Apple iPhone, right? Shubhamoy, your take on boycotting US products. Do you think that will really move the needle in trade war?
My take here is slightly different. The reason for that is we are fighting for a position to be the world's leading economy. So we should not be satisfied with the crumbs. What does that mean? In response to the US create problems, and US has created its own problem, we should not push ourselves back into autarky. Why is this important? India should be the best place in the world to do business. That is what the Prime Minister is talking about, and that is what we are pushing for. We should all, as the Prime Minister himself said, we should be pushing for Atmanirbharta, which does mean that the best products come from India. Now, if those products can be better than Coca-Cola or anything, that doesn't matter.
Correct.
The point is that we do not need to retreat into a shell. Much as I appreciate what some of the interviews that you carried earlier, that they feel, and I can feel the people's outrage, that is not the way we should be looking at. Autarky, we sort of followed for 60 years till we got into our liberalization. So that didn't help us. So we are not talking about that sort of a position. We are producing for the world. Let USA realize how big a market India is and find the US companies putting pressure on whoever's the president that this can't work. For instance, our services sector is the world's best. We are the world leader for the global capability centers.
Yeah.
Half of their business happens with USA. Do we want to stop that? Obviously not. But they don't live on crumbs. They provide the best in quality service,
Yeah.
which is why companies keep on rushing to expand GCC capacities in India. The same thing should be happening in our other sectors. By keeping some productions out, it only allows for sloppy production within India. It doesn't help us. We should be able to
Give me an
compete, and that is
example.
where
Give me an
actually
example.
we're losing.
Give me an example.
Tell you what, for
Just to
instance,
see
yes, exactly.
Pepsi,
I'll tell you what.
Coca-Cola,
For
all of
instance,
them manufacture in
our
India
engineering,
itself.
yes, for instance, look at our manufacturing of engineering goods. Power transformers in USA are not manufactured. The entire USA is short of power transformers. Why is this such a significant thing? The demand for electricity is rising phenomenally in USA, but USA has not invested in building power transformers. Which are the countries which make the best power transformers? China, Vietnam, Mexico, and India. It should not be and India. The competition should be between China and India. We should be producing the world's best power transformers. That is where we should be looking at. We should not be shielding ourselves from competition to satisfy our
Yeah, no,
domestic
absolutely.
markets.
We should
The
have
reason why we are in
products
a trouble
indigenous
today,
to our land which can't have an alternative. Uh, that's
exactly.
understood.
So for instance, if you look
So
at the
is there one
competition,
product
if
that
you look
India
at
can boast of? Because just today I was having a chat with someone who said, US can't do without India because we are the largest exporter of rice. I said, which rice? They said, basmati rice. I said, well, Pakistan also exports basmati rice. So is there any product that India is selling to the United States that they aren't getting an alternative to?
that's the point. So we have to therefore not look at the Coca-Colas in the world. We have to produce our own best products, and that means allowing more competition for all sorts of goods. That is the way we'll be becoming the third largest economy in the world. Third largest economy of the world. We cannot be isolating ourselves. I can understand the people's outrage, but government policy cannot be and should not be to block off imports of stuff. That doesn't help us. We need to say that every product in India is here because they can satisfy, and if they are good enough. For instance, our e-commerce, instant commerce delivery, is the world's best model. Our UPI is the world's best model. Our capacity, as we talked about the GCC, is the world's best model. We should be having many more such which are so difficult for others to produce that they turn to India. That is the mantra, not about walling ourselves in. Walling ourselves in will not help us. We are, for instance, looking at making our shipbuilding into a very major sector. Absolutely right. We should be doing that. We should. Defense Minister Rajnath Singh has said that we'll never ever import a fully manufactured warship. We'll be manufacturing in India. Brilliant idea, brilliant thought, and that is what we should be pursuing. That is how we should be looking at taking on the global challenges.
Right, but
so I would say that
to be
we
very
should be
honest,
pushing on.
Shivomoy, I feel we are aligned on that front. We are getting there, but how long
Exactly.
would that take? My question is, how long would that take? And you can't have
It can take as early
collateral
as
damage.
today.
This wait period will only result in the poor workforce becoming collateral damage.
No, that's an
Actually, if you look
important
at
thing.
it, Shubho, I can just come in.
You know what the important thing is that if I must just come for just a minute, we have already got a measure of Trump. The maximum that he could do, he has already done. Whether the tariffs go up to 75% or 100% will not matter, because he has shut out the Indian imports from there. And what is the maximum impact? Just about 5.5% of the GDP. So we have taken care. That's it. There's no further risk from the Trump factor. We are now, therefore, absolutely poised to move our growth needle further on, which is what is happening. So I think we have actually found our mojo, and we can push ahead.
Now, I don't know how soon we can push ahead. Now, we are already...
Let me take your textile example, right? The fabric that you were talking about, okay? So if you look at the top traded items in the textiles, we were not making, they're known as technical textiles. So what did we do 2 years ago, 3 years ago? We started the PLI schemes, which is to build scale, and we wanted to build products that the world is trading in, make India a very important point for the manufacture and sale of those products. So that's also actually work in progress here. If you look at the other, there are 14 sectors. You look at Apple, Apple phones we're talking, but they're actually made in India. right?
Yeah.
And if India becomes such a very important destination for even
For manufacturing, that's what I said. We also stand at risk on losing out on that many jobs. It's not so simple to boycott.
We shouldn't be. So what we should be looking at is essentially not a question of boycotting. The government is in a very strong fiscal position. I'm sure, and the government is already talking about it, that they will give the support to the exporters who have lost out. And that's fine. That's what is necessary in the short term. But having said that and having done that, we have seen what is the maximum impact on us. Now we should be moving forward to giving ourselves the space, the ability to do the reforms that we need. And those can be done very fast. For instance, electricity prices.
I have
Those are
very
the
limited
very
time,
critical
and
things
I
which
have a
can be done in
question
short
for
term.
Jayant Das Gupta. Sir, India is being bullish at this point. I mean, of course, we can't be looking meek or weak, right? So India has decided to up its purchase of Russian oil now. We're going to increase Russian oil purchase by nearly 20%. I'm not too sure what it does, how it bruises Trump's ego. But what do you think? Are we risking it further of any kind of reconciliation that could happen in the future? Is this a risky move from India?
I think this whole issue of buying Russian oil was a kind of a smoke screen which the Americans and particularly people like Peter Navarro have been using. And they may have people like him may have put it in the mind of President Trump. Once you don't take action against the EU, you don't take action against China, which buy much more oil and gas from Russia. And then Peter Navarro comes up and makes egregious statements, totally undiplomatic, unacceptable statements. So I don't think we should get swayed by that. But if it is in our national interest and the Russians are offering us very sizable discounts to bring down our expenditure on crude oil purchases, and mind you, at this juncture, we are buying about 86% of our crude oil. So it is the largest drain on our foreign exchange in terms of imports. So if we get a good deal, we should buy from Russia. And the other very closely related point is about giving up our strategic autonomy, about giving up our sovereignty at the behest of another country which keeps supplying arms to Pakistan, for instance. Has a
no, and the irony here is the US is still dealing business with Russia. It's not like they've stopped.
If it is, the Americans' war, then it is India's war also. But if it is India's war, it is not the US's war. This is something which we can't accept as a modern day nation. So that is one thing. The other point which I wanted to mention is that, and you have touched upon it, is that, even for Coca-Cola, a part of the royalty goes back to the US.
Okay.
But there are thousands of people, all the bottling plants are owned by Indians in India. And thousands of people who are working not only in the bottling plants, but in the distribution network. So it all, I'm not saying that you don't boycott Coca-Cola or Pepsi, but it would have economic consequences till a substitute comes up. And mind you, there are substitutes which are coming up all the time.
Correct.
On the issue of essential products, for instance, if you look at the import basket from the US, what do we buy? We are buying a lot of capital goods. We are buying unpolished, uncut diamonds, which are used for our export-oriented industry. So are we going to say that we will not buy unpolished diamonds, for which the US is the biggest has the biggest auction houses and sellers located in the US? No. Why should we shoot ourselves in the foot? We are going to continue buying those things because it is needed for keeping the wheels of our own industry and our export-oriented industry in particular moving. So, and medicines, for instance, Pfizer is the largest medical firm in the world.
Yeah.
And the amount of money it pours into research, etc., is enormous. So, if we need life-saving drugs, if we need, for instance, we needed mRNA vaccines, of course, only at a later stage, we developed our own vaccines.
Yeah.
So, why should we prevent our people from getting the best in the world? But all these things have to be taken in conjunction with what Shubhamay has mentioned, that if we develop the capability to produce world-class goods, and that is the biggest thing, we must develop the capability to produce
So from
world-class.
what I gather from all of you here is that India should eat the humble pie now and hold on to this. Wait before we react. We shouldn't be reacting. Just be calm. Strengthen your own craft, and then there is a time that will come in the future that we could have a much higher negotiation power. Shubhamoy?
Yeah, essentially, it's a question of we have done a lot of reforms, but we had been slacking a bit. This one is a crisis. Forget about who created the crisis, but it's a crisis which gives us a wonderful opportunity to move ahead with critical reforms. We've already started doing it, and I think that's big thing. In fact, you talked of eating the humble pie. We aren't. If at the end of this financial year, we end up with 6% plus rate of growth of the GDP, that's a huge statement globally. Believe me, that will be a very powerful statement that India, despite not exporting to USA, its largest trading partner, is still growing at above 6% real growth rate. That's a phenomenal achievement. And I think that's something that people are just coming around to believe that, yes, that is going to be possible. And that is
Also,
something
well, there
that
will
will
be a
be
1% impact, but that also is questionable. We're not too sure if we are going to be on track on that figure. So
absolutely. I mean,
You know,
till the imports, till the numbers come along, the tariffs are in place. But it's not really 1%. It's my estimate is it's not going to be more than 550 basis point or 60
Okay.
basis point at
Okay.
most.
Okay. Dilip?
just one point I'd like to make, just one point, because I think businesses are not going to say that, okay, we lost the US market, we're not going to do it. Indian businessmen are very resilient. They will look for alternate markets. They will develop products there,
Correct.
and they will actually help grow the Indian economy. So I think we should
You're
also
so
give
right.
them
I think
credit.
resilience is in our DNA, and we are able to pivot at the worst of the adversities. In fact, we stopped business with China, and we were trading with China to the tune of 135 billion. That impacted us in a way, but we still, managed to tide through those difficult times. Now we're back to trading with China. I guess we are. Right? Aren't we,
Good
Dilip?
timing with the photo, right?
Yeah. Right. All right. I really appreciate all of you. That's all I have time for. Thank you very much.